13. I got around 12 titles up there, that's all. I'll fix it now.
All right.
Hopefully, update titles around 13. Update all. Damn. Edit settings. Okay, cool. Save. That one's gone up. It's around 12. That's all right. Oh, sick. All right, that's done. I'll just upload these. G'day, people. We'll be starting soon. All those people watching. The masses.
Which one?
Yeah, exactly. It's all right. At least they're archived on YouTube for us. Keeps the sponsors happy. Update titles.
I was so smug with Marchbank's 22 first quarter points.
There was an option between like him, Ware, and who was the other one? Chug, who didn't play.
Yeah, there was only a few.
For defenders, that is. Yeah. Got one watching on YouTube. It's nice. 3 on Facebook. So that's good. Can I go to...
Might have to bring in... How much is Ware now, though? It's expensive.
Talking about that, just bring in Massimo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
true, yeah,
just go 1 week early.
Where's 3:13?
Well, he will get selected this week, probably, won't he?
Ground zero.
Was that?
Ground zero at the Doms. Bring him in.
I'm keen.
You don't have to, but no.
I will.
All right. Case, can I just get a mic check on yours? Just say good day.
Check. Mic, check.
Ah, I know what's going on. I've turned you off here from the Wave Wire podcast. Try again.
Check.
There you are. Perfect.
I really need Elijah Hollins to play this week. Do I have a chance?
No. Nah, you do actually. I don't mind your theory.
More of a chance
Post
of Bryn.
buy. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Post buy.
Post by, bring him in.
No, there's no Bryn Teakle.
Why not?
They've said that they like
They
running
like Finlayson.
Finlayson ruck.
They said Bryn. If
They said Bryn will play this year.
yeah, they said he'll play this year, but
That's
Lycett's only a few weeks away now as well. They reckon. So it's interesting.
Won't even pick Lycett.
I don't
Trade
know.
him, they got Finlayson.
Wins no hit outs. All right. Cool.
He actually had 9 hit outs, just like
9. Yeah. What did Nank have?
more than 9.
30 something.
Couple more than 9.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm good to go. You guys good to go?
Sure.
Let's do it. G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL Fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players that are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Hef and I'm joined by Kays. How you going, Kays?
Very well, Heffy. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Another bye week down. No matches for us in our home league, but that's okay.
Love it.
You'll be loving life because you hate playing fantasy.
Great.
And, and Dossie, how you going, mate?
Yeah, going all right, mate. Bit disappointed that I didn't check one of our leagues, and I was up against you this week, and I think I lost by 40, and I had Sam Doherty's 130 in my emergencies. So
Yeah.
not even the Eon. So
Well, this has happened 2 weeks in a row where last week I came up against Kays and I definitely did not remind Kays to set his team while I was playing him.
Yeah.
And same thing to you. Now, is this a dog act? Should you be reminding your league mates to...
no way. That's
setting
my
your-
bad. That's just
You
no
don't
way.
reckon? No, it's
I'd
good.
do exactly the same to you, mate. So.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because it actually did happen. So I was hoping there was a bit of a ruckus because I think earlier in the year I played against Kays and didn't set mine either. But to be honest, I don't even know if Kays actually checked his. He was probably just lucky enough to actually have...
I put mine on this is the thing about buyers. So I'm all in to win our home league. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I need to get the monk if I'm back. Whereas all these other ones, it's just like they're cool and I'll kind of set my team like tonight and then like maybe just look at it again on Friday, but I'm not going to be stressing over it for the whole weekend.
The Podcasters League is like it's good because it's like against some good players, but like we don't know them. Like the group chat doesn't go off. Well, I don't know them as well. Sorry, we do know quite a few of them in there, but it's not like not people we're talking to every day and stuff like that. It's like whereas the home league, like you're really talking shit about it all the time. And Dossie, I'm sure your league is probably the same as well. You like chatting a fair bit about it. So
you know who else I had on the pine actually? Oh, we're going to talk about him later, but a GWS favourite of ours.
Okay, that's going to be interesting.
So I missed out on a ton there as well.
Oh well, so yeah, at least I'm not the only one who wouldn't be telling their opponent that they're not setting the team. If you think it's a dog act though, tweet in if you think you should be do the fair thing and tell your opponent to set the team. Give them a reminder. I don't know.
No way.
How do you guys feel just about playing through the bye rounds in general? Should it be happening or shouldn't it be? What do you think?
It just doesn't interest me. Purely because from a classic point of view, like people have this strategy for the whole year. Like you've got that, I've got to bring in X amount of players, and you guys always talk
not the whole year, but maybe like 3 weeks before.
Sure, but non-stop you're talking about a buy strategy and what players to bring in from what team. But when you're in a keeper league, like you're not drafting, this year to look at who might have the buy in, the second week next year. So it's like in a keeper league, especially in a single season, there's an argument for it, but I don't think keeper leagues that really adds anything because you might just get lucky that you have, your two, you usually have like one really weak week where you're going to lose. Yeah. But then like you might have like a mediocre week and you've got the guy who's got every single player playing and like it's just not fair. Yeah,
that happened. This happened to me this week actually. Like I only had a possible of like 18 players to choose from. That's if they're all selected.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, I think my opponent had more than me to choose from, but they weren't selected. So like, I actually ended up winning by like, it was like 1,200 to 1,000 or something like that. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if Ultimate Footy you can actually reduce the number of players on field in season or change like more positions to utilities or something. That might be fun. Or, I think
it matters on. I think it matters on league rules and like bench sizes / like. So if you can just constantly use the waiver or like use your free agency picks and quickly swap over and you've got all these list spots available so you can use that. I think it's a kind of a cool way to have some fun through the buys because I don't know, it might just mix up the ladder order a bit and stuff like that. So I don't mind it.
If you're in a league with 40, like you should really have enough, and like there's only 10 teams in the league, which is like mine, you should really have enough cover. But
you say that, but in a league, a league that we started this year, like I reckon I had 16 players available from squads of 36.
Yeah,
like I just had all my guys had missed round. Well, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it depends which way you look at it. Like, like you can get lucky in those weeks and kind of ramp yourself up the order, but you could also, be one of those players that has just an even spread over the buys, and you come up against someone the first week has all their players playing, someone the second week, and it just works out for them. So there's a lot of luck involved in it as well. But I don't know. I'm neither here nor there. Like I'm playing 2 leagues that play through and one that doesn't, and either way I'm happy. Like it's fine.
I think it's a nice way not to be totally engrossed in it for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like where you can check, refresh a bit. Yeah.
Refresh a bit.
Yeah.
Get your tactics right.
I'll swing
a few trade offers.
I'll switch full over to Classic though in this period as well, so I don't really switch off at all. So it doesn't really,
I've just set my lineup for this week, so
yeah, I've already done my trade.
Right.
So yeah. Anyways, we'll get on to the show in a second, but we'll just do a bit of a plug here. So Dossie, I've noticed that you've been out in the town a bit lately, so you're probably the person to answer this question for me.
Here we go.
Because on Saturday night, you sent us a message in the group chat as a video of Rasputin, Lipinski, the Lipinski parody, playing at a club somewhere. So I know you must have been out in the town on Saturday night, plus a few Blue Lagoons that you posted on Twitter.
Have a couple of Blue Lagoons.
And renaming your Twitter handle to Buzz Dossier because you're light years ahead of the competition. But anyway,
I didn't check Twitter this week.
So Dossie obviously had a few beers and he was out in town on the weekend. But
I haven't changed it back either.
You're at a club, right? So describe how this situation would go, Dossie. So you're out in the town.
Okay.
You're absolutely cutting a rug on the D floor, like harder than K's in the Lipinski video.
That's impossible.
How hard
That's impossible.
You're cutting that rug. So you're on the dance floor. You've got your hands in the air. You're waving them like you just don't care.
Yep.
That's how you dance.
Oh yeah.
As you're doing that, your hands are in the air.
Where's this going?
Your shirt rides up. And it reveals your MANSCAPED elastic waistband from your MANSCAPED boxer briefs 2.0. All right. An unsuspecting male or female, whatever you're into, it's 2022, doesn't matter, looks over and sees that MANSCAPED waistband. What do you think goes through their mind when they see that?
they are some amazing bits of underwear, is what I'd imagine.
You don't think that like this guy is obviously groomed, like he uses Manscaped?
That's the other thing that I would have said. Yeah. Yes,
and he's obviously using the Manscaped Boxer Briefs 2.0. So he's obviously a very relaxed individual because he has no way to be stressed and uptight wearing those things, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, so there's a few good indicators there. I was just thinking like, and he's obviously very stylish. Looks good with his pants off because he's wearing the Manscaped Boxer Briefs.
And that is exactly what they would have said. Had I picked up my promotional pair of undies from the post office, which I didn't.
This is very, very important that you actually get yourself a pair because this could be happening next time you're out in the town. But get your hands on a pair.
It's an elaborate scenario there, Hef.
You do have the original version, the 1.0, though, don't you?
I do. And they're my favourite pair of
they're absolutely the most comfortable pair of underwear. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, one of my home leagues, not my home league, my other league, my one with my footy mates, they give me shit about Manscaped all the time, like saying I'm a sellout, all that sort of stuff as well. Just telling me I'm a sellout. And even they, like, even once a couple of those guys have got a pair, and even they say, like, I can't actually knock these. They're amazing. So, so it's actually quite good. So it's a testament to the actual product itself. So
beautiful.
Anyway, get your Santa pair. There's a range of sizes. You go from small to 3XL, so there's surely a pair for everyone out there. Best jocks out there. Get on board. Anyways.
Get around it. Into
the round rewind. Do you like my elaborate scenario there, Dossie?
Gee, yeah, it was quite the scenario.
I had some time to kill before you guys wrote that.
I was like, where's this going?
They're, best jocks out there. Right, let's do it.
Round it.
Into the round rewind.
Round it.
Into the round rewind. All right, into the first game of the week, Port Adelaide versus Richmond. Now, get your jokes out now, boys. Hey, this is the shortest list of Port players you've ever seen before because there's only 2 there. No?
Jesus.
Okay, cool.
Oh, there's more than 2.
There's 3 that I added. One I added late, but I'm not actually
4.
Oh, there's 2. Anyway. Wow. 4's pretty
so short.
Escalated quickly.
4's not, there's really only 3, but 4's not that bad. Anyways, let's talk about Richmond first. Jack Graham, so 96 points. In the midfield a lot more this week. 42% CBAs this week. So I think he had 9 in total, that is. But that was double his season average before this round. Had 10 tackles playing in that midfield as well. He's probably doing enough to keep forward status up until this point. What are we thinking long term? I think we come back to him every few weeks, but let's just check in. Kays, I know you're a Graham fan. What are you thinking now?
I just wish I could see a bit more. That's all it is.
I think, again, no Richmond player scored over 100.
Yeah, and it seems to be a genuine theme. Most weeks this is the issue, apart from probably Jaden Short.
He's the same now. Since he's gone into the midfield.
He's still averaging 102.
Oh, true, nice. But that's from his few first rounds of 140s.
Yeah, it's just the Jack Graham no bloody pre-season factor again, which kind of strikes because he's come into the season cold and finally worked his way into some form. He's actually gone all right the last, 417, 77, 97, 96. I think he's actually finally settled in the middle. You know how like a couple of years ago I was like, he's got this massive ceiling, like he can go big, he can tackle, he can do that, he can rack him up. But Tog was a massive one, and actual CBAs because they stuck him out in the wing so much. Now that you said the CBAs are going up, and on the weekend he played 80% Tog, and like even season wise that's sitting at 77, which is pretty high for Jack Graham. So I reckon it's positive signs.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I think it's on the upward trajectory. It's going to be slow. It's going to be Richmond-esque, which isn't going to be massive. But if you can hold that forward status, might be good for another season next year. Dossie, you're umming and ahhing over there?
Yeah, he just can't. He just doesn't get uncontested touches. Like it's all in the coalface.
Which is
he's got to get those tackles to get a score. Even here, he scores 96. He has 17 touches and has to get those 10 tackles. So
yeah, that's true.
Don't get down on blokes like that,
guys Jack Steele,
Hugh Greenwood,
Arlen Kayser, Joel Trudgeon, the tackle machine.
Okay, we're comparing him to Trudge, a guy who can't even get into an AFL system. But anyway, we'll move on. Judson Clark. Now, Kays, you picked him up in Classic this week. He's on 45 points at half time, and you were
pretty happy.
You're gloating. You're going, yep.
I gloat with most things in fantasy, and then it just turns to shit. So,
got to think more than 1 week ahead. But
no, you don't. I'm in the moment.
I wouldn't have been gloating.
Let me play it my way.
Turned into 64 points in the end. 2 goals on that's fine. 2 goals on debut. Started like their house on fire. You were flexing in the group chat as we mentioned. But yeah, only 19 points in the second half. Thing is, like, he played midfield as a junior and was in there in the VFL a bit prior to this week, playing more as a small forward for Richmond. But yeah, I think long-term stash, like if you were thinking about him, like we probably haven't seen enough to suggest he's going to be a fantasy scorer just yet. Will take a while if he ever becomes one, but just in case you kind of were watching him and you thought, a rookie on debut, let's stash him away. It's a super long-term thing, I think, for Judson Clark. I'm not expecting anything big anytime soon. Is that fair?
Very, very low time on ground in this game as well. And like, I reckon I noticed, and if you guys noticed this as well, but I was gloating the other way and saying, oh yes, in the first quarter, I was like, I didn't get this guy. What a trap. And it was like halfway through the quarter, he was on 0. And I reckon he went 20 something in the last half of that quarter. He kept doing it in bunches. And players that can score in bunches are always very exciting to me when you're thinking long term, because if you can do that and pile them on like that quickly, just thinking long term, it's like, when you put it all together, it's going to be special.
I think the draft profile thing I did at the start of the year, his numbers are actually pretty solid. It was just kind of the team he was coming into in the role that was a bit like, you're not going to get that, scoring opportunity straight off the bat.
Because no one does at Richmond, or?
Well, no one does at Richmond, but like realistically, Richmond's window's still open. So the fact that they're going to play a smaller forward when they've got a lot of other guys. But, saying that, like, guys like Arts and, what's his name? Like Castagna and that, like, they've been in and out the side a bit this year. So, he might be worth looking at.
Could he be the best Judd of all time?
No. Not at all. Rawny made that sweet joke, if he's the son of Chris Judd, he must be pretty good.
Yeah.
Terrible. But anyway, we'll move on to my 4 port players then. Look, Riley Bonner, we haven't 2G4P'd him again because he's just yo-yos up and down, but his second game back from his ankle injury and scored 85 points. I think 80-point games are going to be a regular thing from him coming pretty soon, I think. So, I reckon just not before long he'll be 2G4P. So, just one to monitor over the next few rounds. Hopefully he can just not get injured and get that run of games that he needs of 80-plus scores to make it to that 2G4P threshold. Todd Marshall, we talked about him on the waiver wire. We just think he's worth owning as a streamer. He's the only Port Adelaide forward that really looks like he can put up a big score at the moment. Kicked 3 goals, and he's really capable of that kind of scoring regularly. In 7 out of his 12 games, he's kicked multiple goals, so 2 or more this year, and has put up some huge scores as well when he's got on the back of some bags. So, it can get you an 80 every now and then, one that you stream or have on your bench as like a loophole, and he could come on and, score you a decent 80 every now and then. Now, the next one is Finlayson, so Jeremy Finlayson, that is. Had 78 points, but he was the number 1 ruck. And I wrote my notes on Thursday, and I was thinking there's absolutely no way Port roll with this if Hayes is fit, just because we smashed the hit-outs. Didn't actually affect the clearances too much, but I just know long-term when teams try to ruck with an undersized ruck or a makeshift ruck, long-term, over 4 weeks, it doesn't end well in most cases. But the comments from Port Adelaide, the coaching staff, I think it was Brett Montgomery today, seemed they were pretty happy with it.
They were very happy with it.
Yeah, so it might continue. It could just be funny buggers in the media as well. They might just completely change it up next week, which is what some clubs tend to do. They say one thing and do another. But we'll wait and see. But the thing is, like, Port were absolutely smashed in the hit-outs. Like I said, it didn't affect the clearances too much. But and you do get that. You do add on what he can give around the ground, which is something Hayes couldn't actually do. And if that's an extra factor that Port are looking for, then that's fine. But I think over time, you want to actually just get some hit-outs to advantage, some first use of the footy as well.
It was pretty crazy because I'm an old man. Half I listened to the radio.
So do I,
Nathan Bassett, they were talking to him pre-game. And basically, he was just like, Sam Hayes is not good enough.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
It was just, he's like, he's had his opportunity. Like, obviously, he wins his fair share of taps, but he doesn't do enough around the ground. Simple enough, like, we're not playing him because he needs to lift in that area. And he's not going to lift in that area in one game in the Sandful.
Yeah, although he did have a big game in the Sandful on the weekend, didn't he?
Still, but it wasn't anything, like, his numbers weren't ridiculously different to what it was previously. Like, I think he only laid 2 tackles and and that kind of thing. So without watching the game, it's hard to say.
And there was rumours about them dropping him the week before as well. It was like coming close to that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, apparently they said he was sick the week before, and that's why he was close to being dropped or omitted. Yeah.
But they asked him, is he sick or has he been dropped? And they're like, no, he's definitely dropped. He needs to work on a lot of things. So it's just like, Finlayson, they might go again. And as you said, like, maybe they just keep going on for the next couple of weeks until Lycett does come back.
Get a look at Bryn Teakle, maybe, like we mentioned.
But they did also say that he's going to play this year, Bryn Teakle. just maybe not this week, but he'll play this week.
Does he tickle your fancy?
Oh God,
77 points on the weekend, 3 goals.
Yeah, not too bad. You can play.
Bring him into your team if he does.
I think I've used that on every. I've already made this joke on the pod on Twitter, and now I've needed to round it out.
You got to steal that. Bring him into your team. That's great.
Nah,
because you didn't make it up.
Nah.
Last just kind of observation. So Travis Boak was averaging 125 over the first 5 rounds. He's only averaging 87 since, and hasn't scored 100 in his last 4 games. So just earlier in the season, we were saying sell high on Boak because he is getting on a bit, and those first few weeks weren't sustainable. I think you've missed your chance to sell high now. Like, I still think he's a good hold in a contending team, but if you're down the bottom of the ladder and you're expecting those kind of numbers to maintain for the season, I think you've missed your chance to sell high on Boak because I just don't see him getting back up to like averaging 100, as in averaging 100 from this point onwards. I just don't see it happening. That's all. I think he's more of a 90 guy.
96 though.
I know,
he
but
didn't score 100. But
yeah, I know. That's what I mean. But I think he's more of like in the 90s guy from now on.
Port's highest averaging player.
Doesn't surprise me. But yeah. Anyway, next game, the what do they call it? The birthday game, the anniversary game for the Bombers. Really
started off great with the pre-game stuff, and then it just got really shit quickly
when the football actually started.
Yeah. They should have just kept that pre-game going.
They should have. It was great. Really did enjoy that. That was really well done, I thought. But it's just nuts because like everyone was so amped. Dyson Heppell came in, did obviously look like a pretty inspirational kind of speech, and I was like, all right, we're going to get away. We're going to kick the first goal. Got that first clearance. I was like, oh, look out. And then basically it was just like witches' hats all the way down the ground, and that was basically that's how it set the scene for the game. It was pretty poor. Like, yes, we did hit back in that first quarter, but after that, it was just almost like Carlton were playing with their food.
You love that term.
It's true. Like Kerno and just McKay doing what they want.
They couldn't defend them, could they? Like at all?
No, and that's just what happens. And we lacked that defensive attitude, which is poor. Kind of pains me to say it, but Dylan Shiel, 123 points. It was probably a good game to pull out his only ton of the year and probably his best game of the year. 27 touches.
You can acknowledge good games, Kaz. Even
you
if
can,
you don't like
and kudos to him. He was the only one that actually gave a shit out there, which is good. 10 tackles, and that's probably the intensity that a few of the other guys could learn a bit from. But I suppose if we get that intent from Shiel each week, it does kind of make up for his disposal efficiency, which is poor.
I think
times.
it also, like, Parrish getting injured early had a huge impact on him getting the ball that much, though, as well. But
potentially.
The tackles is great.
The tackles is probably... Tackles are the telling thing that he was actually keen to play for me. I think it's like we have a few... Friday night games coming up, because if you look at Shiel's scoring this year, it's been a bit yo-yo. Like, he's put up some 90s and stuff, but then he's had some 60s. So, obviously see what happens with Parrish and his injury. But I think at the moment, just for safety reasons, he's probably just best looped Dylan Shiel at this time. Dyson Heppell had 97, and there's been a lot said about him over the weekend, and I'm definitely buying into it. I think, his leadership probably can't be questioned, but, he's just looked a bit off this pace this whole year. And, the Friday night lights kind of expose this, and his disposal quality hasn't been great. He doesn't have a contract for next year, which is kind of nuts. Dyson Heppell.
Wow.
Surely your captain's going to be signed up. But
sure. But, where does that kind of sit? And I don't know that all this kind of stuff plays out, and he's probably got, a 2-year, 3-year deal. I don't even know what kind of deal is sitting on the table, maybe even a 1 year. But, then we hear all this, this hype about Massimo D'Ambrosio, absolutely
Massimo.
slaying it in the VFL with 33 touches off half back, or has been known as an elite kicker. Maybe it's time that, this week it's come back in, do your thing back there, Mass, and try and cement a spot, because if you've got that foot skills, that's something we need. Heppell's kind of losing it there. Look, he's still averaging 91 in his last 5 games, Dyson Heppell. So I think if you're owning him, you're still fine, because his numbers are there. They're not going to put him forward. They're not going to put him in the middle. He's going to have to play half back. So, from that point of view, you probably still can get the score as an owner, but I think potentially with all the media hype out there, or the pressure from the press, that you're not going to get a good deal from him if you were looking to offload him.
Yeah, like you said, fantasy wise, he's going to be okay. I think it's going to be okay. It's the real world football that's the issue. I think more so than anything.
But you kind of go, right, so, but the question is, Essendon are going to bottom out, or going to finish shit this year, right? So when do you start, it's kind of like all these other teams. When do they start going, all right?
Either way, your captain's safe in that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah. So I think this year, but I think in terms of value, doesn't have too much. Ben Hobbs is probably the shining light of the night on a woeful evening for the Bombers. 79 points from him, 17 touches, kicked a goal. He looked willing and ready at the level. Just looks smart, and what I like, he looks fantasy relevant, gets to a lot of good spots, and I do love to see this. 62% ownership, so still available in a few leagues. He's got forward status now in Ultimate Footy, so definitely worth getting on board because I think he's going to be a key to our success in the future. Jake Stringer, he had 20 points. And a little word on the street is that Essendon put in a call to Australia Post because they lost a package on Friday night. Thanks, Dossie. Look, but apart from maybe the first 5 minutes of the game, I'm not sure what Stringer actually did. I don't actually really see him touch the footy. He had 9 touches at the end from 78% TOG. So, look, I know it's his first game back after a bit of a layoff, but if he's going to be that undercooked, why actually bother playing him? You know, his top score this year has been 65 points. You know, I think the big fantasy relevant package is gone.
Lost the package.
Amazing. And then I think his biggest influence last year was when he was playing that same role as like your De Goeys and the old school.
But he was kicking goals too.
So he'd start in the midfield and run forward. And if he wasn't playing midfield from what I could see. Or,
no, he was up forward.
Yeah, he would have just. Yeah.
Speaking of packages, this is real off topic, but have you guys noticed how Express Post isn't Express Post anymore? You pay for Express Post and it rocks up still like 7 days later. You'll find more about why I'm hating on Australia Post later in the week. I think there'll be a little something out.
Okay,
real cryptic there. But I'll rant about this.
No idea what this means.
I'll rant about this somewhere else.
Okay,
continue
on Twitter.
Continue on. Nah, you'll wait and see.
Okay,
you always don't know about it. Wait and see.
No idea what you're talking about.
Wait and see.
Absolutely no clue what he's on about.
It'll make sense.
Adam Sard for the Blues, 93 points from him. He looked pretty good and took great pride in just sticking it up to the Dons. A lot of boos on the night, which is obviously, don't love to see that all the time. But look, good on him. He deserved a good game. 19 touches, plenty of good run-off half-back. He's averaging just under 80 this year, which is pretty solid. But I think that's him, though. I don't think he's got that high average in him. He's only 27, I think, looking back. He seems like he's been around a lot longer than that, but still got a few good years left in him. And, you know, the Doherty, Newman, Sard backlines humming along pretty nicely. So I reckon he's just going to be one of those good, you know, D3, D4, D5s.
Do you recall a few weeks ago, a certain man on this podcast said, Zach Williams goes down, time to pick up Sard.
There you go.
I think our response was, he's fine. He's just not a high ceiling guy. He's a consistent guy. That was our response.
And that's basically what I said.
What's happened.
Yeah.
He's got 80, 80, 90.
He's been good.
Anyway.
Jack Silvani, lastly, 85 points from him. I wrote about him in one of those articles I've done over the last couple of weeks. And the game he played on Friday night is the game that I think he can play week in, week out without doing, you know, too much crazy, which basically, you know, with Curnow and Mackay both looking dangerous up forward, it basically allows Silvani to go up a bit higher, play that hybrid kind of connector role, can, you know, go into the ruck at times. So on the weekend, kicked the goal, 16 touches, a couple of CBAs. Like, he's only 24 and he's averaging around that 75 mark. Now, is he a keeper? Probably not. He's just under that capacity. But what I like is he's kind of could be one of those guys that you just go back each year, pick up, you know, early-ish in a draft because, you know, he's really this year he's been super consistent. That 75 average is good. You know, if Curnow and Mackay go down, he can play a bit deeper and he's proved that he can, you know, be quite a handful up forward there. So I reckon he's actually turning into a bit of a genuine fantasy player.
Be interesting to see the number of Carlton players that have kind of increased their scoring just due to their club just not being dog shit this year.
I would say it's high.
Yeah, I might just have a look into that. But
do you think his relevance dies out though when... Because as much as I love him as a player when he's around the ball, but I feel like he does a lot of his damage. Even though he's a good mark up forward, he seems to be much more patchy when he's just playing pure forward as opposed to the role he's got now where because Pitnet's still out and they're running with him as that secondary ruck and gets a fair bit of midfield usage like that. Do you think when, you know, they get Pitnet back or they play a couple of rucks that he's going to kind of lose a bit of relevance though? I
don't think so. Like, he only had 2 hit-outs, you know, on the weekend. And I know, like, he might have been, I don't know the CBA numbers, but... You know, like he's still that kind of connect that higher, you know, he'll push back right into defence or get a few cheapies on the wing and then that will release, you know, Curnow and Mackay down forward. So I think that, and they like to use him, and he kicks the ball well. He's a great mark.
Yeah.
So I just think that he's just so utilitarian, I suppose, might be the word.
Curnow coming in's been the big help for him, do you think, getting him
Definitely.
sort of, No, that's great.
And we even saw him score well when Mackay was out, and then he's come back in, he's still scoring,
Love
well
it.
enough.
The thing long term with Carlton, I think the ruck is an area they'll try to address at some stage. I think it's probably their weakest link as a club. Like it's their probably weakest part on the field, their actual
Do
ruckman.
they just need a couple more years from De Koning, though? To
Maybe,
be that,
maybe.
It took Tim English, what? Like
5
years?
maybe, and hopefully that's the case. But it wouldn't surprise me if they bolster up in that area in the coming off season. That's all. Just thinking of that long term. There might be less ruck opportunity for him going forward.
Hef's got some inside word by the sounds. He's a couple of...
Just a hunch.
Sam Hayes had no...
Just a hunch. Anyway, so let's move on to Fremantle versus Hawthorne. Didn't see a second of this game because I was up the river with no reception. So
There you go, mate.
Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was a pretty good bloody game. Hawthorne, even though they had way less of the pill, managed to stay in this game. So Freo were kind of playing with their food a bit, Kays, but they got a bit too close to their
microwave.
Something like that.
Okay.
But it was Nat Fyfe's return, so I know he's 2G for P traditionally, but I'll just quickly touch on him because I think his return kind of, we were wondering how it would impact the midfield. And it's too early to tell because, he's obviously rusty. He's just played his first game back from the waffle, come straight in. He looked all right, just slightly off the pace to start with, but he scored 67 himself, had enough of the pill. I think it was like 22 touches, a lot of handballs in there, and that midfield forward mix. So he still had 14 CBAs. Do you guys reckon that's probably higher than what you thought just straight off the bat?
I thought he'd be pure forward.
Yeah, so for me, I reckon that just signals to me that as they go along, they'll probably just try and build that up more. Like getting 14 on your first game back, I think that's probably a sign that they're still going to want to play Fife a fair bit in the guts. And probably, I still think slight danger signs for some of those, the peripheral kind of guys in there. Like,
Does someone suffer more than others, or does one take a hit, or is it just that everyone goes down?
I still see Brayshaw carving obviously dominated in this game. We probably expected that to happen as a Hawthorne, and up on the wall, an absolute phenomenal game from your man in the poster there. He's a gun. But yeah, like I do still think, I'm just like, Brodie had the most CBAs in this game, but his time on ground's way down still. And just as they raise up Fife, so I wonder, Mundy still had 14, so it's probably a guy like Mundy that's really
that's what I think goes to
flank or something.
I think he was on the wing
because
a little
Brodie's
bit.
just been too good this year. So
the thing with with Will Brodie, and you kind of go, he might be the one who loses that time, but like it's actually kind of cool that Justin Longmuir has just gone, well, Will Brodie's probably our best like clearance player, so just get him in the guts and while it's hot in there, and then get him off for a rest. Like the TOG might be low, but the relevance will be high because he's, when he's on, he's playing midfield and that's all he's doing.
I really think it's going to be game to game with them. So we'll wait and see. It's going to take a little bit of time to figure out what the real roles are there, but I think it's going to be game by game. Like if Fife's carving in the guts, they'll probably just mix him in there, leave him in there, and if he's providing something forward, they'll just do that. So I think it is going to probably just weigh up, but I don't think the two big dogs like your Brayshaw and your Sarong are going to get too much affected. Brodie's the one I'm just going to look at a little bit, but led the CBAs in this, so really good to see. Akers got injured in this game late. Again, was carving. So we've given him too good for the podcast, 2G for P status already. He's been such a revelation this year. Unfortunately goes down. Do we see anyone taking over that role? I've kind of flagged it could be the Darcy Tucker's time if Akers is out for a little bit with that hamstring.
They said, still TBC, but it's not as bad as for... They said within a month, I think it was the latest that I said. So won't be more than a month for Akers being out. So Tucker in the short term, but it's not something I'm buying into for the long term.
Still pretty nice for a short-term hit if someone like Akers, who was averaging 100 on that wing, if Tucker does get the role. Let's just see who's named on the wing this week because I'm interested to find out.
It'll probably be Mundy.
Well, that's a good point, yeah. And that could raise the influence of all the guys that are too good for the podcast anyway.
Yeah.
Defenders versus the Hawks is sort of a clear thing in this game anyway. So they're 4 of the top 6 scorers for the Dockers were defenders, so might be one to look at streaming. We've talked about a few others, but medium defenders versus the Hawks are 6th overall in that ranking, and we saw guys like, it was just all the defenders carved up, and one of which, who's more of a taller player but is kind of playing that intercept role, was Brennan Cox. 98 points. He's had 2 90s, I think, in his last 3 games, and still not confident fielding him week to week, but just a flag, and also the fact
cap score then?
and also the fact Chapman was out of this side, so that's just something as well to monitor. But I think his relevance kind of rises without Chapman in the side as well. So yeah, tip of the cap for him. Michael Walters, a bit of a keeper league favourite, to become back on the pod for the last couple of years, I would say.
Basically since Case traded McCluggage for him.
McCluggage for him. So just the tip of the cap here, because he had 21 disposals, 6 marks, a couple of goals. I don't see him recapturing his vintage Walters form all the time, but what do you guys think? Any interest in the Walters?
None at all. I love watching him play. And he's like a keep league favourite. Just he's given us some good laughs and some good stories over the years. But
I just want a quick touch on a player that's way too G for the P. But Hayden Young, where do you guys rate him in your, like? I think we had him 17th overall as our consensus before this year as a keeper redraft. Where does he sit for you guys now? Because he's already averaging 87 as a third year player, as a defender that's going to stay in defence for his career.
Yeah, very high. That's the thing. Like, you see so many of these younger players, like they'll have to use him in the midfield at some stage. Like, you see someone like Nick Dacos is going to go in the midfield at some stage, and it changes completely the way he plays. Young's not going to ever be that kind of player. He's just going to stay on the halfback flank, and it's just going to be great for his fantasy scoring long term. So I've got him higher. Just having a look here, I had him the highest at 16th. You had him...
We're a bit lower,
25, 23. So, yeah, no, I'm high on him long term, have been for a long time. And, I think he's going to be a good fantasy scorer for a long time.
How high? Like, I'm talking, is this like...
I'd have to look at... I'd have to look at the age of the players above him. But out of the young guys, he's probably right up there. Like, he's probably top... Out of the defenders, would he be top 5?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, has he moved in that high? Because he's only third year player, and Freo's, especially at the moment, their game plan is looking very good for defenders. Like, anyway, just a nice little thought.
But are we sure he's not going to play midfield?
I think
there was a lot of talk.
Not in the next 5 years, though.
There's someone like Daniel Rich was always like, this guy's going to be a midfielder, this is going to be a midfielder. And he never was, because he was just too effective.
But then you still got to have...
Reminds me of that.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think he's got a long time still.
Is Fife and Mundy still going to be around, right?
You know what I mean, though? I think you've got like a solid 5+ years of him playing back there. So
just looking at it, like, you'd probably take Short ahead of him. Would you take Sinclair ahead of him? Sinclair's going to lose his back status anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Hewitt's going to lose it. Tom Stewart's getting on. Jordan Dawson probably have on par, slightly ahead.
No, Dawson have ahead.
Yeah. He's up there, though, like if you look at it. And then you got Sicily, Houston.
Just question, I just wanted to know how high, because it feels like he's right up there now.
Still feel he's flying under the radar a lot, though.
Probably just because he doesn't get the media attention being Western Australian, but
and he's not quite like good enough to be in everyone's classic teams yet, but he's way too good for this podcast, so he's in that sort of in between at the moment. But explode.
A lot of time spent talking about a 2G4P there. Let's go on.
I won't talk about
the bye week, and Hef's taking all the fun out of football.
So we're going to make it go as long as the actual podcast.
I'll go quickly through this next bit then. Daniel Howe, 78 points, tip of the cap. Thought he was a defender, so I put him in there. He's only mid only, so he's playing that wing role though, but probably not worthwhile. Connor Nash, even though he scored 69, he had his season high for centre bounce attendances in this one and had 9 clearances. So in a game where the Hawks nearly snuck away with a cheeky dubs against a really good team in the comp, that's actually something to look at. It wasn't a high disposal game, but nobody really, like I said, the Dockers dominated possession. So in a game that's more friendly for disposals for the Hawks, I think it was you or one of you guys were pretty keen on Connor Nash last year, Hef?
I was pre-season, I was keen on.
Yeah, like I don't know if that's probably a change role I saw on this game. Highest centre bounce attendance for the year.
He's been in and out of the CBA attendance. I know it's probably the game high, but still only scored 69 points. So
I think they just wanted that bigger body in amongst this game.
He's going to be like a tagger.
Yeah, I'm not.
He's not. He's not a free running.
He's forward eligible. I was just looking because he's still available in some leagues. So I'd be dabbling just in case that role sticks around after the bye.
Lose that forward status next year. Regardless,
we mentioned Ned Reeves just quickly on the waiver wire pod as well. 62 points. He's just building back fitness, but there's that ruck slot that's just completely open at the Hawks at the moment.
Kay's shaking his head.
Yeah.
We all know it's fucking Max Lynch season.
No, it's not.
Will Day Stonks is the final topic. 35 points.
Yeah, interesting.
No CBAs, playing back in defence, couldn't touch the pill.
He didn't have CBAs last week and scored 80 though. Like, he just fluctuates a bit at the moment.
You don't want 35 points though.
I know, it's not great, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not writing this kid off. I've got him in my team. I'm not trading him out. Like, I'm waiting until next year for a kid like this. Like, just the interrupted pre-season and that sort of stuff.
I'm not doubting him necessarily. I'm just saying,
Like I said,
I think we're all just so high on all these Hawks defenders, and it's basically been Sicily, and that's it.
Last week though, we were raving about Will Day. Like, what changes in a week?
Well, the bad thing is that Impey went out managed, and you would have thought, well, someone's going to take those points. I know Scrimshaw came in. What did he score?
I think he was okay. I can't actually remember off the top of my head, but yeah, that wasn't great.
Was it just a bad game for the Hawks?
Yeah. Then if everyone's scoring bad, there's something going on there. I know. Didn't see it.
Sick Dog went well, didn't he? Scrimshaw had 60.
All right, it's Hef's turn. Brisbane versus Saints. Hurry up, Hef. Come on. Get on, mate.
I'll show you how to do it quickly. All right, here we go. Kadeem Coleman, 94 points. So this is an interesting one because we'll flag that Zorko got injured, but also he was playing more in the midfield as well. So there's a few bumps in this, I reckon, as a result of Zorko playing in the midfield, because I think he only had 6% CBAs last week, which was like 2 CBAs, and then he had 7, I think it was, up until the time he got injured. So probably would have been up around 14, which was like the 3rd, 4th highest. So Kadeem Coleman was on halfback, just ball kept falling his lap in the first half. I think it was on 65 at half time. Had a heap of marks across halfback, using it by foot like he usually does as well. He's averaging 73, which is like a huge jump on last year's 35 average. The only issue I think now is just he's probably not consistent enough to kind of trust each week. But I think long term, if they can get Zorko out of that defence long term, which I think he's not far away from, being kind of past it anyway, Zorko. So yeah, I think Kadeem Coleman's probably one you can look at for the future. Speaking of like bumps as well in defence, Brandon Starcevic had 85 points, and again we talked about Zorko being out of the midfield, but I think this is just like a good game for him, because a tip of the cap type thing, because he's just too much of an offensive type. He's only averaging 60 for the season. So
I'm super hot on Kadeem Coleman long term. Starcevic is a pure like Blake Hardwick lockdown small kind of defender.
Exactly.
He will have a good game,
yeah,
and he'll have a lot of mediocre games.
Well, yeah, way too defensive. Yeah. Then the next guy I'm talking about is Cam Rayner. So he had 81 points, and I'm buying stocks now because he still had 81 and had a pretty big decrease in centre bounce attendances this week. So playing still a lot of forward, but what was happening is more so pushing up to the contest type thing, kind of coming in as that kind of 4th midfielder, and yeah, just pushing up the ground once the ball had been bounced. So I'm not reading too much into the centre bounce attendance too much, but the good thing, because he's starting forward so much, he's going to keep forward status next year, and then if he keeps that in a fantasy way, I don't know, I just think with a year off, we could expect a lean year from him this year, and he's just starting to build. And we saw him have a quieter first, quite a period before, but it was kind of noted that they were trying to play him forward more to cover for Joe Danaher.
Sounds like my notes from last week, mate.
Yeah, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
Except he scored better this week, that's all.
He did.
Yeah.
Dossie's just one step ahead. Buzz Dossier. Ahead.
I'm so glad I missed all that crap.
With the Zane Zorko injury, so he was obviously playing in the midfield a bit more this week. So yeah, we just might see Rayner up there a bit more, because I think that was the kind of change. So Rayner might see that bump this week, but Dev Rob might actually hold on to his spot for a few more weeks as well, which is kind of good to see. How he goes there, because I'm a big fan of Dev Rob, and I think he just needs the opportunity, and he could be good. Moving on to St Kilda, Tim Membry, 79 points. I still maintain he's one of the better fantasy forwards. He gets back, better fantasy key forwards, that is. He gets back, drops into the hole, finds a space on the rebound, and can still kick a couple of goals every now and then. But he had no goals in this game and puts up 79 points. So pretty impressive from the old member berries there. And moving on to the last one. This is how quick I've got through this game, Dossie. Mitch Owens. So he had 11 points, concussed, so just before half-time. But he wasn't fine on the footy anyway, so a lot of people blaming the concussion for the 11. He still had a half of footy. I think it was a -3 at quarter time. Only 3 CBAs up until half-time as well when he got injured. So I think he was used on the wing a bit more. Like, it's hard to tell, because Winhager and Owens on that far wing, when you can't see their number, they look pretty much exactly the same. So I wasn't sure who was who. But yeah, no tackles this week, as someone who'd kind of prided himself as like Jack Steele 2.0, was sent to a tagging role the week before on Jai Simpkin. And in hindsight, they were never going to send him to Neil, really, because that was just a play. Like, they send him to Simpkin because he's kind of not in the same level as Neil is. You send him to someone like Neil, it just absolutely kills his confidence, because Neil just would have crushed him. So, yeah, in hindsight, it's probably a bad thing writing off Neil, especially in Classic, when people didn't want him to put him as captain, because they thought Owens would actually go to him this week and try to play a hard tag on him. It was probably never going to happen, and Neil got off the leash as he usually does. So anyway, Mitch Owens will be out for a week. Still like him for the future, but yeah, just talking through his game on the weekend as to why he didn't go so well. That's it.
So many good players to come back into that Saints side this week. Billings, Clark.
Yeah, Hunter Clark, yeah.
Your boy, Ryan Burns.
Jack Bytel.
I don't think he played on the weekend.
Is he still doing fitness regime?
Yeah.
So he's on the...
Still working off that Christmas pud.
Yeah, light and easy pre-season. Yeah, still doing it. Anyway, let's get on with
North G-Dubs, what a cracker. North are a basket case at the moment, unfortunately. Sorry to all those North fans out there.
Question.
Yep.
Did Jason Horne-Francis belt that guy so he didn't have to play football for the next 2 weeks?
Josh Kelly.
Yeah.
Have a few week off. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, he'll probably get...
He's got two.
Probably get has he?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It wasn't that bad, was it? 2 weeks.
I don't know.
Oh, well. Yeah, probably. So there's lots of... Obviously, the rumours are running rampant about that sort of crap, but... Yeah, it's just not looking good, and GWS cut them apart, and, I mean, they literally were... I felt they were actually... playing with their food way too much in this one, because they were just, look at the disposal disparity. It was 130 more disposals that GWS had than North, and I don't think honestly they did that much with it compared to what they should have done. Like, they should have smoked them, and they just couldn't really move it forward, which maybe that's slightly credit to the North defensive shape, but yeah, it wasn't too pretty watching this game. A couple of notes. Perryman was injured in this game. He's got broken ribs, so that's going to probably open up some time in the midfield until Taranto returns, unless he returns straight away next week. Time will tell. But there was a few really relevant names that have come to life in the last few weeks for G-Dubs. The biggest one.
Hit us with it.
161 from Harry Himmelberg.
Oh.
So he 37 touches and 16 marks from basically full back, or at least playing just loose in defence deep. And just like I said, how they were just toying with him. It was just this constant chip mark in the defensive line, and they were just, playing with it. So he also had 6 kick-ins, so he actually still had the most kick-ins in the game with Whitfield back in the side. Whitfield was playing on a wing, and Cumming got the 5, so...
Just over the last, I think 3 weeks it was, I did the kicking stats just before we started the podcast, and he's the second most improved in the kick-ins, I think it was, in the last 3 weeks. So, yeah. So
he's just getting a truckload of that. Lock and load. He's probably going to be too good for the pod, because 74, 101 and 161 in his 3 games coming in, playing in defence under the new coaching regime. So maybe give him one more week, but 160, we probably can just promote him straight away, just about.
Oh, sorry, he is the most improved over the last few weeks. He's taken more kick-ins. I think Sam Doherty is the next most improved over the last 3 weeks, and then Nick Blakey.
He's going to get defensive status very soon, and I mean, if he can keep this going, he might even be relevant for us long term.
Dossie, just before the show, we're kind of chatting off air. I was asking you, do you think they actually start to try to lock him down a bit more, or what do you think?
What, opposition clubs?
Yeah.
Probably not. Like, he's a tall. They've got a lot of other weapons that you could get off the leash that are probably going to be more damaging up the ground. He's more the guy that's kind of setting him up deep. And the only thing that's really damaging, like super damaging from him, would be if he gets those handballs off the back and boots a goal like he did in this game, like a Daniel Rich style.
I'm not actually sure how you do stop him, to be honest.
Sorry?
I'm not actually sure how you do stop him, to be honest.
He's too good. We'll see how it goes. I'm keen to see. You're not wrong in that they might just put a little bit more attention into him, but
maybe not get the 160.
Yeah, maybe not quite that much, but good signs. Tanner Bruhn, 102 points,
my boy.
And I was saying to Hef in the waiver show, it seemed to me that the coaches were like, okay, we're up against North, let's give the kids a go in the midfield. They dropped Josh Kelly down. Kelly got a hard tag in this game, but they put him forward a bit more. They gave Tom Green back his centre bouncers, who Tom Green had actually sacrificed a few in the previous couple of weeks when McVeigh had taken over, and they chucked Bruhn in there for a fair few as well. So 24 disposals, 7 marks, 2 tackles and a couple of goals, but I'm sticking steadfast with the breakout next year, I think. But we were talking, and with the Perryman injury, he might be able to have a couple of weeks here or a few weeks where he might be able to pop some 80s in our forward line. So he's definitely worth a pickup and a stash regardless.
There's also talk that there's a bit of a salary cap squeeze on it, GWS too. So someone may have to depart in the off-season.
There's always a salary cap squeeze at GWS.
Well, when you've got that many good midfielders.
Yeah, I'm not doubting it. I'm just saying.
It's quite possible.
You think they'd sort that out at one stage?
Unless they will take, 200 grand pay cuts, I think it's always going to happen.
James Peatling, another favourite of the podcast, 83 points, scored 3 goals for the third straight week after the coaching change as well. So he's been very much enjoying the freedom up forward. He's still only got defender status at the moment, so I'm expecting him to get forward very soon. 119, 89 and 83 in his last 3 as well since the change. It's going to be interesting when Taranto's back in that mix where he fits in, because he's kind of playing that high half forward linking role and also just sneaking out the back for a couple of cheap ones. So
because last year he played defence.
Yeah, he's been a defender and been racking up. So he's always been a fantasy player in the VFL. So interesting to see where that goes. But for the short term, still a good pickup if he's available. This guy's generally been too good for the podcast, but just interesting to say, I think if you're a contender, you can start looking at Callan Ward, because he's going to get defensive status, I feel like. He got some CBAs in this once Perryman went down, but he's basically been playing defence.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, once Perryman did go down, he was pretty big on the CBAs after that.
Yeah, but I think that they're going to move him, I think they'll move someone else to come back in, like Taranto straight back in or something like that. And I feel like they're wanting to shift Ward down back anyway.
I'm just getting the feeling though,
still a hopper eventually too. I feel like they want to transition him into a defender.
I think you're right, but I think by the time they do it, he's just going to become irrelevant. We need him to play back for this 6-week period or the 3-week period, depending on the classic, to get it and have it this year. I just fear next year he just kind of floats off.
I agree. Yeah, so let's hope that if you see an in this week and it's Taranto or something, I think you'd be pretty safe. And I just think it's a nice play because you're not going to have to pay up too much for Callan Ward, are you?
Nah, not at all.
Yeah, so I think it's a nice play for a contender. Jed Anderson, do we 2G him now? Is he 2G already?
No, because his 2 fluctuates too much, and he only averaged 70 last year. I know that was injury affected. Missed a lot of the season.
Honestly, from mine though, he was just one of the only North players that's looking trying hard. Simpkin obviously, but
he just looks pissed off. He looks like, I'm just going to tackle people and run hard at people because this is the only thing that's fun for me at the moment.
Yeah, he just did a few high energy plays as well where it was this guy cares a bit. So Trishan Cherry for 82 points, just good to see him getting back into it, and I think he's going to be one of our better ruckmans in the future.
Ruckmans?
Ruckman.
Ruck people.
Ruckmen.
Ruck people. Ruck people.
Yeah.
I think he's... I've got a big Cherry stock, so I don't know about you guys, but I think the fact that he had those couple of weeks off with injury...
Yeah, you had Coleman come in and had a look at him.
And now Goldstein's playing a stack of ruck next to him. It's kind of lowered his... this guy, what he is. I think his ceiling and stuff going forward, when he gets that prime ruck, is going to be pretty huge.
I agree.
Curtis Taylor was the last one, just the tip of the cap, 87 points. I see him... He's another guy that has a lot of effort.
He does some nice things, doesn't he?
Like a few
of his grabs and stuff.
If North ever turn that corner, if we get, I don't know, coaching change or something happens and they start actually getting the ball in their hands, I feel like Taylor's going to be a good scorer, but it's still a long way off.
He showed signs when he was the classic cheapie that year, 2 years ago. He put up some half reasonable scores and it looked like he was just building. Then I think he spent most of last year injured. And then this year he's kind of doing it again in spurts.
Just like him. I like him going forward.
A lot of effort.
If you've got captaincies, Kane Turner, I can't believe they did this. They ran a tag the whole game on Josh Kelly, start to finish, down 10 goals, non-stop ragdoll and Kelly. So if you've got a captain against North, if they decide to run that again, I can't believe they did it all game. It's what does that achieve, honestly?
Yeah, it's annoying.
It's frustrating. So they haven't really done that much this year. So just watch out, because if they decide to use Turner to start tagging people,
maybe they thought they were actually a chance of winning, but why do it for the whole game?
They're 50, and they asked him at halftime. It's me having Kelly captain in my classic. They asked David Noble at halftime, you're going to keep going with this with the Turner tag, or are you going to let that play loose? And he's like, no, we'll stick with it. And I was like, you bastard.
Anyways, let's move on to the final game of the round, the Queen's birthday.
Yeah.
Collingwood versus Melbourne.
Finals intensity today. It was not a...
If Australia becomes a republic, do they do the Queen's birthday game still?
Sure.
Yeah.
It just becomes like the big freeze game.
Oh, that's true.
That's what it would be.
Yeah.
No one really salutes the Queen today, do they?
No, not really. No, you're right.
At the football.
They just have the Monday off to do it, that's all.
Yeah.
But yeah. Maybe that'll be Republic Day.
Republic Day.
Who knows?
But, yes... So, Dossie, did you know that North beat the Eagles? The Eagles beat Collingwood, and Collingwood beat Melbourne. So, who knows?
My God.
But no, it was amazing. I thought kind of maybe about halftime Melbourne, or no, halfway through the second, Melbourne was going to kind of flex and just burn away. But, geez, the Pies just kept coming and showed a lot of grit.
Sorry, boys. I accidentally just clicked something and cancelled the recording. It's just for like a second.
My God.
You were in some good conversation there, that's all.
But no, it was amazing. I thought kind of maybe about halftime Melbourne, or no, halfway through the second, Melbourne was going to kind of...
Now fake conversation now?
No, we're just going to go on.
Flex and
Can you go back to where you said flex? You thought...
They're going to flex and run away with it, I think.
Oh.
But no, it was amazing. I thought kind of...
go from like where you said you thought in the halfway through the second quarter. Just go start with us. I thought halfway through the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. And
I thought halfway through the second quarter that Melbourne was going to flex and run away with it. But Collingwood showed some amazing grit and determination and just brought them down to the level. It was a few big injuries throughout the game and some heavy knocks. Obviously, Max Gawn got a bit of a knock. A few guys got knocked out for Melbourne. So
you know that what the start kind of reminded me of as well in this game? Trying to bring this up for Pies fans that are up and about, but the 2018 Grand Final, where like the Pies in the first quarter, West Coast scoring shots were there, but just hadn't put it on the board. Pies were 1-5, I think, in the first quarter, so it was kind of clear that they were doing the right things. They just hadn't put it on the scoreboard. And honestly, if you look back, they were the better team like all day, pretty much.
But yeah, I don't know if it's worrying signs for Melbourne just yet.
I think it is
3 in a row
with all the rumours that are floating around as well. Like, have you heard a few of those?
No.
Okay, maybe I won't bring them up on the podcast. But there's a lot of off-field stuff going on. Like apparently Stephen May and the Jake Melksham thing was just like the start of it. There's a lot of fighting with the players and coaches and stuff like that. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's rumours. None of it.
It's just screenshot and WhatsApps. You know,
what's funny is I got sent a group chat and it actually started with. It was like a screenshot of like a text message, and it actually started.
There's so many of them.
And it actually started with me mates. Oh, you know how my dad's on the Melbourne board? I just laughed at that. Like, this is obviously fake, but like people sent around in group chats like some
I saw that one.
Like as if your dad's on the board, as if they're like going around the kitchen table. It's like, oh, you know what's going on at the club. Like, you know he's fighting today. Anyway, I thought that's hilarious. Go on.
But anyway, the only really, there's a lot of too good for pod players in this game, but. Just need to talk about my boy, our boy. We all love James Jordan.
Jimbo.
He is just on an upwards trajectory. 124 points from him, 29 touches and a goal, playing on the wing, and I'm convinced he's going to be a star. And what I love about him is he's not just one of those front-running wingmen who kind of just want to get the cheap goals. He is always back deep in defence and really helping out in the last line. What I've kind of liked is it's his 4th year on the list this year. It's only his 2nd year that he's actually been playing. So, like, he, because, Melbourne are going, okay, he didn't play in his first 2 years of his contract. Are we looking at a delayed onset of 3rd-year breakout?
Well, we only know that it couldn't be possible for a player to break out in the 4th year, so perhaps that is the reason. Yeah,
I think next year is the delayed onset 3rd-year breakout.
Yeah.
Okay, his 5th year. Yeah. But no, I'm just loving what I see. He just racks him up with ease, and I know we've talked about it a bit recently, but. If he's starting to put this, if he's starting to put this kind of score together on wing, which is sometimes quite a hard place to score, I'm just all in. I'm chips in.
This week I actually received a trade request. Last week how I said I wish I put an offer in for him earlier because I've just been liking him for a few weeks now. Now he's putting up 2 good scores. So I think the coach in question who owns him heard that and sent through a trade offer. Cam Rayner for James Jordan. And this is, it was during the week, and I was like, I'll just wait and see how Rayner goes on the weekend, and then I'll think about it. And then Rayner scored an 80, and so I was like, I'll keep Rayner. Forward status, it means more to me than an outside player. Now James Jordan puts up a 124. Did I make the right call?
You made the wrong
Rayner
call.
or Jordan?
You made the wrong call. I'm still not seeing the Cam Rayner thing.
It's just a forward status. Like, the forward thing gets me. Like, if he can have a breakout year next year as a forward, it might be just handy for my campaign. That's all.
No, I'd be Team Jordan.
Yeah. I'd be Team Jordan, but
should have asked the brains trust. You
Rayner's got that superstar kind of potential in that his impact's going to be so good. But I mean, it's just a matter of whether he can be that uncontested, because Petrarca built that uncontested part of his game so much to get to where he could.
You
start
heard it
dominating.
here first. Rayner's going to be the next Petrarca. Thanks, Dossie. Thanks for telling me that I made the right choice. Good.
Okay.
You're both wrong.
I hope you're right.
Mason Cox, 101 points. I'm just trying to think back,
Coxie.
apart from that, what was it the final where he kicked a few goals?
Yeah, the
You know,
prelim.
The
Richmond.
Richmond prelim
This
was
is
probably the best game of football he's ever played.
He was unreal.
Quite early.
All my group chats were going off with like Cox goat, shit like that.
Quite early, but his third quarter was enormous. What do you have? 69 points in the second half alone. There was one of the times where he just picked the ball up off the ground one hand. I was like, is this Luke Jackson or like Mason Cox? Like, it was nuts about how he was just on fire. What do you end up? 21 touches, 1 goal and 9 hit outs. And I think he's actually worth thinking about while Grundy's out. He's only 11% owned. I forgot to send that through for the Waiver Wire podcast. But, like if you need a forward and, Darcy Cameron's obviously at the moment number 1 ruck, but Mason Cox is going okay. Collingwood are going okay. And they're starting to look for him. If he's on, obviously this game is not going to happen each week.
He's streamable / loopholeable at the moment.
Correct.
Yeah.
But 11% owned, like pick him up. Like,
don't mind it.
What do you got to lose?
I mean they've got the bye this week, but like it looked like I think we mentioned it a few weeks ago. Before he injured his finger, he was basically looking at being the number 1 ruck and sort of rotating them 50-50 with Cameron against Sean Darcy a few weeks ago. Then he got injured, and then I don't think they ran that sort of style this week. But then coming up against Gawn and Jackson, they obviously were like, okay, we need that big body. And he was, like you said, it was like the second coming of the Cox breakout.
Yeah.
It was a girthy performance from Cox.
We're on fire tonight. I'm not. You guys are. But nice work.
Braden Maynard had 96. Looks like he's starting to get back to a bit of fantasy relevance. 25 touches off half-back. He's only averaging 64 this season, which is quite shocking, but 74 in his last 5. So, looking back through some of his scores, it is very role dependent, whether he's playing the lockdown or whether he can get off the leash a bit.
Braden Maynard has a tendency for big second halves of the year, if you go back and have a look as well.
Defenders against Melbourne boys.
Maybe that's the key as well. Yeah.
And lastly, Brody Myercheck, 94 points from him. Down on form this season from a fantasy point of view, because at times he's kind of been like an F5 option because he never really puts in too many bad games, but he's had a bit of a lean 2022. Anyway, he kicked 4 snags, 10 marks and 16 touches today. So have a look at him if you're short, but I think he still needs a few more games to kind of get my confidence. So if it was between the two, I reckon I'd be going towards Mason Cox over Brody Myercheck.
All right, that's the round rewind for another week. If you appreciate the work that we put in each week and want to support the podcast, please sign up as a member. Essentially, we can't keep doing this every week if we don't have members. So if you do choose to sign up, though, and support the podcast, we will reward you with a few bonus stats and things that we use to pick our fantasy teams. So, that includes weekly CBAs, kick-ins, scores for and against, projections, the breakout tracker, and much, much more, including the pod, everyone's favourite. So, links in the description below to join up. And, please consider joining up and supporting the podcast. Each week, we read out 10 gold members, and I think we actually have to get a move on for gold members because I don't think we're going to get through all of them this year if we keep only reading out 10. So we might have to bump it up to 15 soon. But anyway, I think I worked out the numbers and we need to do a few extra in a few weeks. That's all. But anyway, gold members include, thank you to these people, Lee Whiting, Todd Coleman, Sam Arnott, Michael McKenna, Pete Brown, Matt Risley, Graham Marlowe, Scott Berry, Kevin Monahan, and Liam Webb. So thank you to all of those legends for supporting the podcast. Cool. I might just fix up that middle bit. Otherwise, I'll forget to do it after the show. Just give me 2 seconds. I literally just click 2 seconds ahead and just cut the recording.
Were you at a brewery drinking Blue Lagoons?
Yes.
Okay. That's questionable behaviour.
I had a couple of beers and I was like,
What brewery was it?
Ladyborough. Cool. I had a couple of the beers and I was like, you know what?
Not feeling
it's time to transition.
I don't love their beers.
No, I don't even know what they are. That's saying something.
I don't think it's just like you can't buy them.
Okay.
It's like heavy. It's like, we were having a few out in the town and it's like you can't just have those kind of heavy beers all night.
I thought halfway through this, 10 pints. I thought halfway through the second.
Cool.
I'm still seedy.
Transitions. Nice. Questions again, mate. We're almost done. You can do it. You can do it.
Was it last night?
Nah. It's getting old.
God.
It's the 2-day over.
The 2-day hang. All right. Let's change one thing here. Cool. All right. Let's get on the questions. podcast. All right, on to the listener questions. First one comes from Kang Daddy. Good evening, Stallions. Kang Daddy always calls us Stallions. I love this guy. What's the deepest league you're in? Your gold members have the Keeper League Dynasty League, which has 18 teams, lists of 36. I am actually aware of this. Our gold members group started a Keeper League that's absolutely nuts. But would the depth of the league affect how hard you go all in for a championship, as it will take longer to rebuild? What do you think? Well, what's the deepest league you're in, Kays?
Our league?
32, with 16 keepers.
Plus the rookies.
Yeah, I get you. So what's that, 40?
Similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dusty, what's your deepest league?
There's Pro Keeper League, probably.
Yeah, the one
big's that?
40.
That's massive, yeah.
Yeah. Mine's 36. Actually, no, it probably has, because when you factor in the rookies, yeah. But the thing is that in that one we only make 3 list changes. In ours, we have to only keep 16. I think it depends, like, how many you keep in that as well. Like, if you're only making a few list changes, it's actually hard to go all in, because, like, not a lot of people want to give up their young guns for, like, the common strategy is you give up your young guns for old players if you're having a tilt, but not many people want to give up their younger players type thing, because you want to stash them for the future, because you can in those dynasty leagues. I in my dynasty league, I went in all in last year. I traded James Jordan for Patrick Dangerfield last year, and I think I added one more. I did one more kind of trade that was pretty similar. Won me the flag. Like, I'm not complaining about it. Like, I'm struggling this year. I think I'm mid-table. Actually, no, I think I'm up to 3rd now. But I'm not going to win the flag. So it depends if you actually want to build a dynasty or not, I think. I just want to get the monkey off the back in year 2 in that league.
It's hard. It's hard to win flags sometimes. So,
if you haven't won one, do it. If you've won one, don't do it, I'd say. Just, yeah.
I think good call.
Yeah. All right, move on. At Adza08Elf, talk about Tanner Bruin being one of your boys and getting his bus ticket punched, and how good is he going to be? We've kind of talked about it already, but Kay, surely he's on your bus, or if he's on anyone's bus, it's going to be yours.
Yeah, well, because I spooked him in the preseason and got laughed at on this pod thing that DOS hosts.
Well, to be fair, it took like 13 rounds before he could do anything, but
he's better than so many other crap people that were talking about on that podcast. Give me a break.
Anyway, next one. At Russ2468, Kay, I'm going to throw this to you. Mm-hmm. When do you expect Brett Turner to be up and running? I'm assuming that Adelaide drafted him mid-season. Then his injury can't be that bad. You're the state league guy. Do you know much about him?
Obviously a good scorer. He didn't. Obviously, the Crows he didn't play the other week, and Crows had the bye this week. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this week.
Did he have an injury or something?
He had an injury, so hasn't played for a while. And obviously, if he was all right, we don't know, because the Crows had a bye.
Maybe they were holding him off so he didn't get injured.
So there's a few interesting things about the Brett Turner selection. He is one of the only people who selected to have a 6-month contract, whereas a lot of people go for that 18-month deal. So which one is kind of interesting.
Maybe that's the reason why he was picked. Like, he might not have been picked if he didn't do that.
The other thing is that a lot of talk has been around that he's not actually going to play this year unless someone like a Crouch, Laird, Keys goes down and they need a proper man body in there.
He matches like the dime a dozen midfielders they've got, doesn't he?
So it's basically a break in case of emergency play, just to kind of keep some kind of level of maturity in that midfield. Right, so I wouldn't get too excited until we really see something.
All right, cool. Good call, because I had no idea about any of that case, so thank you. At Willie1998, what do we see Himmelberg averaging in his new role? I feel it could be 90 to 95. I do think it's going to drop down to that 90 to 95 range, but I think that's quite accurate from here on. Do you reckon?
I mean, that's a bloody good average. So
I'll take that.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'd say that much, because I've had 3 really nice matchups in the last few.
Yeah, fair point.
So, yeah, but I mean, I'd take a 90. I'd
happy
say
with
85 to 90 would be like pretty ambitious still.
Yeah, I think you can go an 80.
Yeah, and I'd say like an 80 plus is possible. I don't know how much above that. I need to see him against some tougher oppo, I think.
It's going to be hard to drop that average now from what he scored already, but I know he
fair. Yeah, that's
fair. At Major Van Bam, with Zorka, who gets the extra halfback flag points? We kind of already saw on the weekend, I think, because he moved into the midfield a lot more, and I think we're pretty keen on Kadeen Coleman in that spot, so hopefully he can...
Don't write off Noah Answorth.
Oh, yeah, actually, I obviously watched that game. He looks all right. He looks like he fits in that side these days. So, yeah, he's one I'm expecting big things from in the next few years.
I'll write him off.
Thanks, Dos. At C Oakenfall 97, Lukosius, how do you guys value him, and what do you think his role moving forward long-term. Halfback flank wing role when King gets back next year? ? Dossie, you love Lukosius. So do you,
I do
Kaz.
love my Lukosius, and I think it's probably the same answer I usually give in that
Buy low.
they just put him, well, yeah, buy low, but they put him where the ball's going to be most in his hands. So I think they tried something this year and it just wasn't working playing forward. They're just like, okay.
It
we'll
is obviously
him-
the King
switch
being
him
out.
wing.
Like, we'll try him as a key forward.
Yeah. Well, no, I think they wanted to play King and Lukosius forward because they just get so many inside 50s. That was their plan.
Okay.
It's just to boot it inside 50 all the time. But then Chol and Casbolt actually being okay, they've been like, well, let's switch this up.
But how do you see that long term? Like, Casbolt's not going to be around for a long time.
I think Chol can be quite serviceable.
Look,
for a
I
while.
think ideally they do want Lukosius to play forward, but I just think it's more of that, like in the Kerno type role where he's still fantasy relevant and he still gets up the ground and gets lots of the pill and delivers it inside 50 as well as kick goals.
He's just such a good player that he's just a great hole filler. Like, and that's my kind of concern. Like, you can play this guy anywhere,
Yeah, but
which
I
most
just-
of them are fantasy friendly. It's the key forward role that you worry about.
But they pretty much got rid of that role this year because they're like, look, he's not getting the ball enough. We want him to hit the ball in his hands as much as possible. So wherever that is, whether that's like a Lockie Whitfield wing role, halfback, like I think he will just rotate a fair bit just based on where he's going to get the pill.
Yeah. I'd like deep down, I think he's going to be good. It's just I'm a little bit concerned that if he plays a key forward, he's not going to be as good as he potentially could be if he was like continuing that like halfback kind of role that he had last year, which I just don't see that happening again. That's all. At Richard Eliadis, Himmelberg, hold for relevance or trade high? What do you boys reckon? Trade high?
if you're not going to win this year, I'd trade high.
I'd trade high too.
Because,
if I
like-
had him on my team right now, I'd get rid of him.
There's
Who,
no guarantee that he's going to play this role after this week or, worst case next year. Like, is McVeigh going to coach GWS? Probably not. Like what's
Either that or he becomes like the next Sicily, and we're just giving
sure.
him away.
But if you're weighing up the pros and cons, you've probably got to go, is this just like a big fucking massive explosion for a short period of time?
I'm just trying to think of because Whitfield came back in, who was on the wing. You've got Cumming back there, who's like the kind of one of the bigger main distributors. Who else is like back there these days? I'm just trying to think.
Callum Ward.
Yeah, there's not a lot of big names out there. Like, he could be okay. Like,
Perryman when he moves back, maybe.
he uses the ball well enough that they trust him with the kick-ins and stuff like that as well. So it's like he could be
Connor
okay.
Iden.
Yeah, there's not a lot of big
Ash,
scorers back
I don't
there.
know.
Yeah, sure.
So Himmelberg could be.
No, the thing that I say with this question though is like, okay, what's a trade high mean?
Well, so like you get someone in, you get like a. For me, like the only thing you'd probably. Oh, it's hard to say.
Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I don't think for me, I reckon there's just that stigma when you've picked someone off the wire. Who the hell is going to want to pay you overs for something that you've just picked off the scrap heap?
Well, say if someone's in, say if like a defender goes down for someone who's in contention for a flag, and they've got like a young jet on the bench, like
Cam Rayner.
better than that. Like, let's just say,
Well, would you trade him for Cam
yes,
Rayner?
I probably would.
What?
I reckon. If I was contending for a flag, not now. I'm not my team now because like my team's not contending at the moment. But
Depends how high you're on Rayner. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what the bar you're setting is a Cam Rayner for this? Nah, no thanks.
yeah, no,
You wouldn't trade him for Cam Rayner.
He just dropped a 160. Has Cam Rayner dropped a?
No, I think we got.
I don't think Cam Rayner's ever got a 60.
We're arguing for the same. No, sorry. I'm saying I would trade him for Cam Rayner. Like, I'd do the trade. I'd get rid of Cam Rayner.
You're opposite.
sorry.
No, yeah, I'm talking about because
He's hold Himmelberg. You're trade Himmelberg.
No, sorry.
this
The way you
guy's
phrased it. No, sorry.
this
I'm with
guy's
you.
saying,
We're on the
do you
same
hold
team
or
here.
trade?
We're on the same team here. Sorry. The way you phrased it
What
at
are
me
you
when
on
you
about?
said, would you trade Cam Rayner?
move on. What are you on about?
No, because I have Cam Rayner. That's what confused me. So I would get rid of Cam Rayner for Himmelberg. Yes, is what I'm saying.
Right.
He's
Yes.
he's the owner. This guy.
We were talking about how I owned Rayner. That's all.
Move on.
How many Blue Lagoons you had tonight?
How's that my fault? Like I literally said before, I have Rayner, and then you're like, would you trade Rayner?
The question
And I'm like,
was
yes.
Himmelberg. Do you hold or do you trade?
That's not part of the question that you asked me. There's nothing about Rayner for Himmelberg there. I thought you were coming back to the point that I had Rayner.
Right,
in my
rewind the
team.
tape on this one. This
Anyway.
is exploded. Rewind the tape on this
It's
one.
on the mush.
Anyway, sorry, but there's nothing about Rayner in Richard Eliadis' question there.
You brought him up.
No, you said, would you trade
wait.
Rayner? I did not.
I brought him up, and I used it as a real life example of what trade high was.
Exactly. Like, so Kays, I wasn't. Oh, God, Dotty, you've lost it, mate. DJ 4 Brooks, should I be offloading Stevenson? Yes, he sucks now. You reckon, Dotty? You brought him into your classic team earlier this year.
I'm buying all North Melbourne players at the moment.
Really?
Well, yeah, they can't get worse. Like,
They've got to be fieldable, though.
By
I
Stevenson
think
cheap,
there's going to be wholesale changes, and all of a sudden, all these guys like
Coaching change,
if you're rebuilding, if you're trying to rebuild your side, just go out and buy all these guys that like Taron Thomas. He's playing VFL. Jaden Stevenson averaged 80 twice in his career already, and he's only 23. Like these guys, I'm buying.
Do you know what Taron Thomas scored in the VFL?
I know he had 21 touches.
64 points.
Yeah, but they're also bottom of the ladder in the VFL. Like,
surely.
I just don't know what Stevenson's role is going forward. Like, I just can't pinpoint one, and I don't think it's in the midfield, and that's the only place.
They spoke about it at halftime of the game because he had one touch to halftime. They're like, "Oh, we better move him onto a wing and get him involved." That's what he said.
Yeah,
so.
I don't even think it's in the midfield though. Like, I don't think that's where his future lies, and I just don't know where it does lie. So I'm worried for him. Last question of the night, Nathan Ayres. Schoenberg still a stash or leave him in a pool? Kays, we'll throw this one to you.
Depends how.
Actually, let's get an unbiased thought. Dossie.
What's this?
Schoenberg, stash or leave him in a pool?
Depends how many list spots you've got.
No.
I still like him, as a player, but yeah, I'd probably be at the moment. I'd be leaving him pool in my leagues because they're a bit too shallow.
Yeah, I'd be pulling him. He's not getting a game.
It's coming.
Kays would probably marry him.
Depends on the list changes in the off season, honestly, for where he sits. I think.
All right, my brain's frazzled now. Let's wrap this up.
Been frazzled 5 minutes ago.
Let's wrap this up. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Most importantly, TikTok. It's where our biggest following is growing there. At Keeper League Pod on all of those platforms. Make sure you use Keeper20 at manscaped.com to get yourself 20% off and free shipping worldwide. And we didn't actually mention it at the start, so that's bad for us. But anyway, sign up as a member as well. Make sure you support the podcast. All right, I've checked out for the night. See you later.
You're too busy with your 8 paragraphs intro that you forgot the promo code.
I definitely did. I deleted it off the show doc, actually. Anyway, catch you later. Bye.
See ya.
Oh, I'm going back and listen to that.
I'm telling you, that was